Hey guys, it's Aaron from Team Endgame, and today we'll be bringing you a new series of our set reviews. This series of videos will be for the We Are Trinity Dragon character booster, which is due out on the 24th of March 2017. Hopefully these have gone up on time, and the set should be out towards the end of this week. So I'll be kicking off this series of set reviews, starting with Oracle Think Tank. Like the Tri-Free character booster, there are some special triple rare reprints for this set. The only one that Oracles get in this set is a triple reprint of Psychic Bird, which has some new artwork, which is quite nice. Just having a quick look through the set, there is only one other reprint for Oracles this time around. That is for Battle Sister Pannacotta, which was originally a shop promo. One other thing to point out, guys, is that they are returning the SP packs for this set, in which case you'll get a 7 SP pack for your clan, which is pretty good. For Oracles, you will get the new Gia, Kamususanoo, and SP versions of the already existing Kamususanoo, Spiritual Sword of Rough Deity Susanoo, the original Stride Break Susanoo, the Stride Fodder Ame-no-Murakumo, Perfect Guard Gion Flipper Ame-no-sagume, and the Crit Trigger Kusanagi. Getting into the new cards, I'll kick it off with the GR for OTT, which is State Affair Subjugation Deity Kamususanoo. So this guy has 2 skills. First is a continuous on the Vanguard, Generation Break 2, and Oracle. This unit gets 5k power and 1 critical. Its second skill is also on the Vanguard, Generation Break 2. When this unit is placed on the Vanguard, if the number of cards in your hand is 4 or less, you may Counterblast 2. If you do, draw a number of cards until there are 5 cards in your hand. So looking over the skills for this card, I'd say it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. A card like this, I can only see you running at 1 in your deck, maybe 2. From what I've seen online, a lot of people don't actually like this card and think it's pretty weak, and I can be honest, I can agree with that to a certain extent. An important point to note about the first skill is that it is a continuous skill, meaning that during your drive check, if you hit 5 cards in hand, you will get the 5k and crit at that point. So realistically, you need 2 cards in your hand at the start of your Vanguard attack, and then you'll get 5k crit regardless, because you should hit 5 cards. This does actually make it one of the more easier Oracle restricted effects to actually activate, which makes it a good skill in my opinion. Though unfortunately this still doesn't do much for the cards, because it is only a crit you're essentially getting. And that was just on its first skill. I do think its second skill is actually really good as well, and it's also a reason why I would consider running 2 in potential decks. Best case scenario for its second skill is you have no cards in hand when you stride into this, which means you're top decking. So for a Counterblast 2, you basically plus 5 cards from your deck, which is a massive catch-up card in my opinion. In most cases, if you were to be top decking, you would be in a bad position and be unlikely to pull it back unless you sacked into crits and your opponent couldn't guard. Just the fact that OTT have a catch-up card like this that can plus you 5 cards for no real cost in my opinion. I mean, Counterblast 2 isn't much. OTC counterblast quite a bit right now, but that's because you're using Takamikizuchi. This card can easily replace that in the G deck, and it is optional to do the counterblast too. So for what I mentioned earlier, that you could potentially run this in 2, I would say you have 1 copy to draw the 5 cards, or up to 5 cards, sorry, which will also get you a crit as a bonus, but there is also that second use of, I kind of need a crit to kind of threaten him or push him in this mid-game situation, which is pretty good in my opinion. As I mentioned, I've seen people who aren't too happy with the card. Personally, I do think it's a really good OTT card. However, I don't think it's worth the GR slot. However, I'm personally okay with it, considering I'm only looking to run 1 or 2 copies anyway, which means I don't have to hunt around for GRs. Overall, fairly solid card. I can see it being run in maximum of 2 copies in pretty much all OTT decks. Moving on to triple rares, there are 2 for OTT. The first one being Son of Eternity Amaterasu, which is a new G-Guardian. So her skills are, when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, if the number of cards in your hand is 4 or more, this gets 10k shield until the end of the battle. And the second skill, when this is placed on Guardian Circle, Soul Charge 1, look at the top card of your deck and put that card to the top or the bottom of your deck. I think this is a really nice throwback to the old Amaterasu cards. The second skill being the main part of you getting a random Soul Charge and you can manipulate the top card of your deck. Quite nifty that this skill is on a G-Guard, so it enables you to manipulate if you're going to take the damage or not for a triggering damage or a heal trigger, etc. Secondly, I also like that the first skill's requirement is to have 4 or more in hand rather than 5, which would be the Oracle keyword, because again, it is a nice little throwback to Amaterasu, which required 4 cards in hand. Overall, really easy condition to meet, especially for OTT, so nice 25k shield for barely any cost. And that extra manipulation of the top card of your deck, if you want it, bear in mind you don't have to, is just a nice added bonus. Very good G-Guard. And the second and last triple rare for OTT is Spiritual Sword of Rough Deity Susanoo. So this is the new second Susanoo card. This one has 3 skills. Also on the Vanguard, Generation Break 2 and Oracle. At the beginning of your ride phase, look at the top card of your deck, put it to the top of the bottom. Second skill, also on the Vanguard, at the beginning of your ride phase. If you have a face-up card with Amaterasu or Wakahirume in its card name in your G-Zone, you may soul charge 1. And last skill on the Vanguard, during your turn, when your G-Unit stride, you can Soul Blast 2 to draw a card. So, first skill I want to look at is its last one. So when you stride, Soul Blast 2 to draw a card. It's essentially this cost, which is what's given a lot of other cards the Soul Charge skill, including the Amaterasu G-Guard, which then links into the second skill of having an Amaterasu G-Guard and Wakahirume, which is the fighter's GR. Those two in combination work quite well, as they essentially feed each other for the skills. Considering how fast OTT can actually draw through their deck, though, I'm not really happy that you have to Soul Charge and Soul Blast to get these extra draws, especially since there's no real way to put cards back in the deck. I understand why the cost is Soul Blast 2, since OTT do counterblast quite a bit to draw cards, but honestly with a lot of the Vanguard skills I'm not really convinced that this card needs to have the stride skill to draw, especially when the original Susanoo essentially is drawing your card for a counterblast as it is. Moving to the first skill, the fact that you can manipulate the top card of your deck is really nice. A little irritating, but it's an Oracle condition at the beginning of your ride phase, simply because that means it's literally just after the turn that you've, guarded against your opponent's attacks. In my opinion, it's highly unlikely you're going to have 5 cards in hand even with OTT. I think it's a really hard skill to use, and because of that I think it really hurts the card. The other 2 skills aren't enough to kind of back it up. The only decent thing about this card, in my opinion, is the fact it has Susanoo in its name. But even then, I don't think there's enough support cards around the Susanoo name to make it worthwhile using this. And now we get on to doubles, and we start with one of my favourite sub-clans, Excite Battle Sister Miroir. Miroir? So her skill is, on the Vanguard as an act, once per turn, you can flip any card in your G-Zone face up. Until the end of the turn, this gets an auto skill on the Vanguard. When your units with Battle Sister in its card name attack hits, you can counterblast 1 if you do draw a card. And, continuous on the Vanguard at Generation Break 3 and Oracle, all of your units with Battle Sister in its card name in your front row get 1k for each card in your hand. A lot of red text on this card, but I really like this card. I mean, Battle Sisters are one of my favourite subclans anyway. So going over each skill, it's not a GB2 restriction to activate the skill, so you can essentially use this to activate GB2 from the get-go if need be, though I believe Susanoo is the only card that will benefit from this, as in the new one, not the old one. Secondly, it's nice to note you don't need a Battle Sister Heart, but it only affects your Battle Sister units that attack. This also includes your Vanguard Battle Sister unit, which is also nice. Downside is they have to hit, but if your front row is all Battle Sisters, if your opponent really doesn't want you to draw a card, then you are essentially forcing them to guard every attack. So chances are you're going to get 1 or 2 through, maybe, depending on the situation. The second skill that it gets is what really buffs the card in my opinion, I love it. It's GB3, so since it flips up, it's essentially GB2. So you can G-Guard into this if need be for GB3, or you need to have done a stride first, probably into Gelato, and then you can go into this. It is continuous again, so even though it has Oracle, as long as you have 2 cards in your hand, you can drive check up to the 5 for Oracle. And this is again what makes it really good, since your Vanguard will have Battle Sister. Again, once you hit your drive check, you can essentially drive check your last card, put you to 5 cards in hand, and all of a sudden your Vanguard's gained 5k because you've got 5 cards in hand, and it's a Battle Sister. This does also apply to your rear guards obviously, but you need to have the Oracle restriction met before they attack. But essentially it's giving at least minimum 5k to your front row, which is great pressure, especially if they're on high damage. I think this really buffs the Battle Sister cards as a whole. You could even use this in a non-Battle Sister deck as long as you're running Battle Sister Rearguards. Not all of them require Battle Sister Vanguard to actually work, and you can probably mix in different deck types to actually get this to work somewhat, which is quite nice. I know I'm definitely going to be using 4 of this card, and I'm potentially going to be using a high stand count as well, because the extra 5k is pretty nifty. But I think this is a really strong card, and it's going to really push the Battle Sister archetype. Next we have a new Battle Sister Grade 3, Battle Sister Madeleine. So she again has 2 skills. Also on the Vanguard at GB2, at the end of your opponent's turn, if the number of your units with Battle Sister in its card name is 3 or more, and the cards in your hand is 3 or less, you can counterblast a Battle Sister to draw a card. Second skill is a Stride Break skill. When your G unit with Battle Sister in its original card name strides, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets, on the Vanguard, at the end of the battle, that your Rearguard with Battle Sister in its card name attacked a Vanguard. If it didn't hit, you can Soul Blast 1 to countercharge 1. So first off, its Stride Break skill goes hand in hand with the new Stride that's come out. Since Battle Sisters don't use the Soul as a resource much anyway, it's a really nice way to get those free countercharges. And since with the previous Stride, when you hit, you counterblast draw. Since I doubt your opponent's going to let all of them hit, you're bound to let one of the other ones not hit, so you can Soul Blast and countercharge. Though do note it is only on Rearguards for this one, so if your Vanguard doesn't hit, then you don't get to countercharge, which is kind of annoying, but makes sense. As for its first skill, the GB2 one, it is quite nice, so having that ability to manipulate your hand size before riding and striding is always nice, though this does really restrict you into using Battle Sisters only in your deck. Adds a little consistency to getting a decent ride, field and stride if need be. Overall, really solid cards, probably definitely the new 4 of main card of the deck. You can imagine it being this and the Legion as your main grade 3s if you're running a Battle Sister deck. Next double is Deity Spirit Loyalist Ame-no-oshiho. So this is a grade 2 9k GB1. Also on the Rearguard, a GB1 Oracle. When this unit attacks, you may counterblast 1. If you do, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, search for up to 1 card with the Oracle ability from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand, this unit gets 3k to the end of the turn. And as a second skill, at the beginning of your main phase, if the number of your cards in your hand is 4 or less, you can put this into your soul and you can draw a card. So this card's second skill is bolstering the new soul requirements for the Susanoo type build, I would say. It's just a 1-for-1, it's not amazing, it's not bad though, I suppose. Since it is at your main phase, it does unfortunately mean it doesn't really synergize well with the new Susanoo grade 3, since you're soul blasting the 2 to draw on your stride phase even, but this goes into the main phase, which means this is more of a setup card in that sense. The GB1 skill's solid, I have nothing bad to say about it. It's when it attacks, not when it hits, so that's good. Doesn't need to be boosted, so that's good. And you get a 3k boost during the attack as long as you put a card into your hand, so that's good. It's also to the end of the turn, and it's not once per turn either, so if you do manage to stand this, you can get an extra 3k, making it a 15k on its own. With the release of this set, there's a lot more Oracle ability cards out there as well, which also increases the chance of actually finding one in your top 5, including the new Susanoo grade 3, which is good for stride fodder. Solid card. I don't think it's that impactful, but it's probably definitely included in the deck somewhere. Last double R is a new Perfect Guard, Deity Dynasty Defense Official Amatsu-hikone. So like with the Tri-Free Booster, this is when it's placed on the Guardian Circle from the hand, you can discard a card. If you do, choose one of your units that's being attacked, it can't be hit. And in the drop zone at GB1 Oracle, at the end of your turn, you can counterblast 1. If you do, return this card to your hand and choose a card at random from your hand and bind it face down. So this is another Perfect Guard that's a way to get back to your hand, similar to the currently existing Shadow one. Unfortunately, although it sounds really nice, the fact that you have to bind a random card is really annoying, and the fact that it can be this card is even more annoying. I don't think it'll be used, honestly. It's incredibly minor and it's too risky, considering the cards are chosen at random. I think you're better off still using the unflipping Perfect Guard than this. And that leaves us moving on to rares. So first off we have Spiritual Deity of Benevolence, Ame-no-sagume. So she is a stride on the Vanguard Oracle. When this unit attacks, you can choose a face down card from your GZ and turn it face up. If you do until the end of the battle, this unit gets Auto on the Vanguard. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, draw 2 cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it, and countercharge 1, soul charge 1. So this is essentially the GB2 enabler for OTT, goes really well with the new Susanoo Stride Break. Unfortunately, you need Oracle active before you attack, which is kind of annoying since you don't get to do the flip up if you don't have Oracle. Secondly, the skill that you gain from the flip is when it hits the Vanguard, which for a first stride isn't that good in my opinion. And even though you're drawing 2 cards, you have to discard 1, so it's only a +1, again, not that impressive. The countercharge soul charge is okay, but for what I'd assume is your first stride, I doubt you would need to actually countercharge soul charge. So overall, rather mediocre. It's nice to be a GB2 enabler, but I don't think it's that impressive. Next is Goddess of the Prophet Yasaka, which is grade 3. Has 2 skills, on Vanguard and Rearguard and Oracle. When this unit attack hits a Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1. If you do, draw a card, choose a card from your hand and discard it. And if the discarded card has Oracle, countercharge Soul Charge. Second, when it's placed on the Vanguard, you can Counterblast Soul Blast, look at the top 5 for an Oracle card, shuffle your deck. So it's a generic Oracle Searcher, it's okay, it's a decent backup. But considering now that you have 2 Susanoo grade 3s, you're probably not going to use this card that often. Secondly, its first skill is when it hits a Vanguard. I'm not too keen on hit skills that much these days. But not only that, it's 1, it's restricted by Oracle, and 2, even if you do hit, you're only drawing a card to discard a card, so you're not really gaining any advantage from it, just a bit of consistency and potential unflip soul charge. I don't think it's going to impact any OTT decks that much. The only potential way I can actually see it being used is if this was your alternative grade 3 as opposed to the original Susanoo, since it doesn't have Oracle and this one does, meaning your full grade 3 lineup could be Oracle. But that's a very minor point. Overall, I don't think it's that amazing of a card. Next we have Battle Sister Crepe, grade 2. 2 skills, it has a continuous skill on the Rearguard at Generation Break 1 and Oracle. This unit gets 2k power. And second, on the Rearguard, when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Battle Sister in its card name, you can counterblast a Battle Sister and draw a card. So my first impressions of this card, it's a very minor side grade to Battle Sister Coquette, which already exists. The main differences being, one being that Crepe has this second skill to gain 2k on the Rearguard as a passive skill, as long as you have Oracle and GB1, which is quite nice, meaning you can hit 11k on its own, which is good. The second part, which I consider to be the side grade part, is that you have to counterblast a Battle Sister, which Coquette already does. They still have to hit, which is fine. Crepe, however, needs a grade 3 or greater Battle Sister Vanguard. Coquette doesn't require any specific Vanguard at all. Crepe just draws a card, and Coquette, you look at the top card and it has to be a Battle Sister for you to draw it. Looking at it in this sense, Coquette is more focused if you have a full Battle Sister deck. Crepe can technically be splashed into other decks as long as you have a Battle Sister Vanguard, which, as I stated before with the new Stride, you don't actually need a Battle Sister Heart, meaning you can technically splash it as long as your front row is potentially Battle Sister, meaning I think this probably makes Crepe a better card overall, even if it is restricted to you having to have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. Still, I think this is a really good card. I think the extra 2k that it can give itself actually gives it an edge over Coquette personally. I will be making a Battle Sister deck myself, so I'm probably going to be trying out this and Coquette as alternatives and see which one I prefer. But I still think it's really good cards and can really help the Battle Sister deck. Next up is Deity Spirit Loyalist Kumano-kusubi. So he has an Oracle skill on the Rearguard. When an attack hits a Vanguard during the battle that this unit boosted, you may counterblast 1. If you do, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, search for an Oracle card, reveal it, put it to your hand, put the rest onto the bottom of the deck in any order. If you put a card into your hand, you put this unit into your soul. So it's another Oracle Searcher, so this goes along with the grade 3, which is on Ride, and the grade 2, which is just on attack. However, this one does neg the plus you've just made by putting itself into the soul if you did add a card. So it's more of a consistency card, while also filling the soul for some of your new Susanoo skills. This does make it okay for a Susanoo deck, however the fact that you have to counterblast for this as well, I think is a bit of a hindrance. The only upside I can potentially see to the card is since you're putting him to the bottom of the deck in any order, you can potentially start stacking your stuff. However, I'm still not 100% convinced. I think it's a mediocre card at best. Next is Precious Ophidian. It's a 6k grade 1 with a Generation Break 1 Oracle skill on the Rearguard. At the beginning of your ride phase, you may retire this unit. If you do, until the end of the turn you may stride without paying the cost until the next time you stride. And a second skill, when it's placed on the rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Oracle ability, you may Soul Blast one to draw a card. First glance, I think it's a really strong, powerful card. The Soul Blast one, when placed, is nice. It hasn't got a restriction like Royals and Shadows that need to be called from the deck. However, you do need an Oracle Vanguard to do this, which is mildly annoying since there aren't that many strides with the Oracle ability out at the moment. You've got the new GR, I believe the new rare that I just went over a moment ago, which was Ame-no-sagume. Other than that, I believe it's just Waka Hirume. That is the only other one I can think of off the top of my head. Makes it a bit more difficult to use, but it's still a pretty decent skill and cost. The main part of his skill is the fact that you can retire it to stride without paying the cost. Again though, however, since this is behind an Oracle restriction, and it's the beginning of the ride phase, it's coming just after the point that you've guarded your opponent's attacks. It's going to be quite hard to actually pull it off, in my opinion, even though you are in OTT and you can draw a lot of cards. I don't think you'd max this out in a deck. I think you'd run it at 3 maximum, because you don't want to saturate your deck with 6k grade 1s that you're aiming to retire. But that said, I still think it's a good card, and a Soul Blast one's pretty cheap cost. With all the new soul charging skills that are in OTT, I think you can make a decent use of the card, especially in an Oracle keyword based deck. Next we have a new Battle Sister starting Vanguard, Battle Sister Compote. So her skill is on the rearguard, you can counterblast one and put this into your soul, reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck. If all of them have Battle Sister in the card name, choose a card other than Battle Sister Compote from among them, put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is the new alternative to Waffle as your starting Vanguard. Waffle is essentially the same, but calls it to the rearguard and gives it a power boost. This one, on the other hand, goes to your hand. So, in my opinion, they're more or less the same. The only major difference is that Compote is a 4k base power, whereas Waffle's 5. They're more or less the same card, it's just personal preference in my opinion is whether you'd want it to your hand or to the field. The fact that Compote has to reveal all 3 cards as Battle Sister does slightly hinder it, as you might want to run Perfect Guard Gs or Stride Fodders in the deck, so you are, in that sense, you are unlikely to get all Battle Sisters. But it's still an option, and I think they're both viable. And the last rare of the set is Handbell Purification Maiden Ouka. So she has an Act on the rearguard, Generation Break 1 and Oracle, retire this unit. If you have a Vanguard with the Oracle ability, choose one of your rearguards until the end of the turn. It gets Auto on the rearguard. When this unit attacks until the end of the battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0s from hand to the Guardian Circle. So she's essentially the new stand, retire her, give a unit a Tom effect. That's great. I personally like the idea of the stand trigger. It's nice it's behind Generation Break 1. While I don't mind that it has the Oracle restriction on it as well, I'm a little annoyed that your Vanguard has to have the Oracle ability. Again, as I mentioned before, there aren't that many strides out there that I can think of that have the Oracle ability attached to them, so you're very restricted on the turns that you can actually use this skill to give a unit the Tom skill. That said, I still think it's a pretty solid card, and it's nice to see Oracles getting a bit more utility of what they can do, rather than just drawing cards. Moving on to the common cards, we have War Strike, Sword Deity, Toyokuninushi. So this has 2 skills, Auto on the Vanguard and Rearguard at Generation Break 1. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets 4k power till the end of the battle. And a continuous skill on the Rearguard, when Oracle is active, this unit gets Intercept, and when this unit intercepts, this unit gets 5k shield to the end of the battle. Honestly, I don't actually think it's that bad of a card. The GB1's not behind Oracle, so it will get the 4k power if it attacks the Vanguard anyway, meaning you just need a 7 behind it to hit 21. And the fact you have that potential ability to intercept with a grade 3 and get 5k shield actually makes it quite appealing in my opinion. Still, I don't think it's going to be used due to the fact there's probably better grade 3 rearguards / backup Vanguards to use, but my opinion is don't overlook it, because I think it's actually a pretty okay card. Next is Battle Sister Berrymousse. Auto on the rearguard, during your turn, when your other unit with Battle Sister in its card name is placed on the Vanguard or rearguard, this unit gets 2k power to the end of the turn. So this reminds me of the Silverthorn Lion that does more or less the same thing when stuff's called out from the soul. Since it's Battle Sister units that have to be placed, again, you're probably looking at a full Battle Sister deck, which is what I'd expect to be the norm anyway. Since it does say placed on Vanguard, it means that your Battle Sister strides count if this is already existing on the field, which means that on stride this becomes 11k, which is pretty good. and it does stack, so you can potentially call this, call the rest of the field, and then got an 8k boost. I think it's a very nice finisher card in combination with the stride that also gives you a potential 5k power, makes it even better. There's cards like this that really push stand triggers towards the deck. It's a really simple effect, but I think it's really strong. Next is Weather Girl Apprentice Smoothie. So Generation Break 1 on the rear guard, when this unit attack hits a Vanguard, counter charge 2. So it's a very simple skill, it's a clone of an already existing Neo Nectar card. Counter charge 2 may seem nice, but I think it's quite weak personally, especially since it's taking up a grade 2 space. I don't think it's going to be used, honestly. I can't see much use for it. Next is For Doom Purification Maiden Sachi. So she has a continuous Oracle skill on the Vanguard and Rearguard. This gets 2k power. And an auto skill, when this unit intercepts during the battle that your Vanguard was attacked, this gets 5k shield to the end of the battle. So she's essentially a special interceptor, like those of the good old days, with the added bonus that she's a 10k on the Vanguard and Rearguard as long as you have 5 cards in your hand. Which sounds nice, but again, I personally think the Oracle's quite hard to meet in certain situations. So it's not all that amazing, and even if she was 10k on the Rearguard, I don't think it's warrant running her just for an extra 5k shield on intercept. Pretty mediocre card, not much else to say about it. Next up is Battle Sister Syrup. So on the Rearguard at Generation Break 1, when this unit boosts you can Soul Charge 1. Now although she's a Battle Sister in name, I don't actually think she fits into a Battle Sister deck. She's more likely to fit into a Susanoo deck, especially with the new Soul Blast cost of the Stride Break. Honestly, not 100% sure where else a Soul Charge would fit into an OTT deck. I know there's a Stride or two that utilises the Soul, but I can't say I've ever had an issue with Soul in OTT decks, so again, not 100% sure where this would fit. For that reason, I can't really give an accurate opinion on how I think the card is. Maybe it will boost further support when OTT eventually get it. Next is Battle Sister Rusk. So auto on the Rearguard, when this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Battle Sister, you may Soul Blast a Battle Sister. If you do this, it gets 3k, and continuous on the Vanguard, Rearguard, and Guardian Circle, it has Resist. So it's not much different to the already existing Battle Sister Omelette, in my opinion. The fact this has a cost of a Soul Blast is mildly annoying, but it's also when it attacks, which means it needs to be in your front row. I would say it's nice to have in your deck for utility purposes, just in case 1, you need to Soul Blast, or 2, you don't have any front row units, so you might as well push this forward. Overall, I'd say the main reason to use it is Resist. Even then, I'd still say it's a pretty mediocre card. I think there are plenty of better options to use in terms of Battle Sister cards. Next is Astrologer Miss Hayes. Auto Generation Break 1. When this unit is retired from the Guardian Circle, if a card was not put into your damage zone during this turn, you may Soul Blast 1. If you do, draw a card. So this is one of the cards I think will bolster the Oracle keyword mechanic, especially since a lot of the new ones require Oracle to be met during the beginning of the ride phase. So essentially all it amounts to is if you guard with this and you don't take a damage, then you get to draw a card for a Soul Blast, essentially making her a free guard, sort of. Unfortunately, it is a 6k base, so you don't really want to run too many of them, but as I said, I think this is one of the cards that's going to help meet that Oracle condition come the start of your turn, so you probably will end up using it, and for that reason I think it's a pretty good card. The new Oracle starter, Deity Spirit Loyalist Ikutsu-hikone. So it's a Generation Break 1 Oracle Forerunner. For an act of putting this into your soul, you can countercharge 1. And a second skill, when your unit with the Oracle ability is placed on your Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and put this into your soul. If the number of cards in your hand is 4 or less, you can draw a card. So it's a pretty standard Forerunner, it's just a 1-for-1. Again, you need a Vanguard with the Oracle ability to be placed on your Vanguard. Thankfully, this one isn't restricted by Generation Break 1, so this will count as your Grade 3 ride, or even Grade 2 ride technically. I like the added bonus that you can just pop this into countercharge 1. It makes it a decent starter. I think it's better than the one that we currently have for an Oracle-based deck, / GB-based deck. And to top it off, Oracles get 2 new triggers, one being a draw trigger, Aqua Witch Nene, which is worth pointing out that it is a witch, so it does help the somewhat really under-supported witch subclan for the Coco build. And a new heal trigger, Medicinal Stone Purification Maiden Yakushiji, both of which are vanilla. And that wraps up this video on the Oracle Think Tank set review for We Are Trinity Dragon. Thanks for watching, guys. Please stay tuned for the upcoming Great Nature and Dimension Police set reviews done by Mike and Yuri. They should hopefully be up shortly. Again, please let us know what you think about these videos. We're always looking to try and make new series for the channel for you guys to watch and enjoy, and we're always looking for ways to improve on what we do, so please let us know in the comment sections down below. Again, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe, follow us on Facebook, and we'll see you guys later.